Facebook reportedly planning to rebrand itself with a new name as the tech giant is coming under fire for its business practices. Joining us now to discuss is former Facebook executive and research fellow in the Center for Technology Policy at the Heritage Foundation, Kara Frederick. Also the co-host of Wake Up America Weekend and CEO of Allison May PR, Allison Maloney. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So before we dig in a little deeper to the brand itself, The Verge was who first reported that Facebook's focus will now go to the metaverse. Kara, what does that even mean?
That's a good question. Well, the metaverse, in Mark Zuckerberg's word, is the embodied internet. He said this is where you're inside of content, not just watching it. So it's a blend of augmented reality, virtual reality, and gaming. The Wall Street Journal, I think, put it best when they said, your digital avatar can walk on the moon in your PJs in the metaverse. So that is our new digitized future. It's the future of the internet.
There's so many techie terms in these reports that people just aren't able to break down without knowing, oh, I go onto Facebook, I like, I poke, I post, whatever it is. But Allison, a recent whistleblower released documents that showed Facebook was targeting younger users as its researchers were finding that Instagram was especially harmful for young girls. Is it just going to be a name change that's going to solve this problem, or is this a much bigger PR issue?
Yeah, this is a bigger PR issue. Just because they're changing their name and they're adding this metaverse is not going to quiet lawmakers that are demanding answers. We have Senator Marsha Blackburn, we have Richard Blumenthal, who are saying, look, we want to know more about what this whistleblower said. If you in fact knew that the content was harming young girls, this isn't going away. Parents are upset about it. You know, Facebook and Instagram, they want to keep those younger viewers. That is the goal, and they're losing them, especially on Facebook. So this story and this PR nightmare is definitely not going away with a name change.
And we're just learning this morning that, according to the Wall Street Journal, Facebook's oversight board rebuked the social media company for not being forthcoming about exempting high-profile users from its rules. Now, they're drafting recommendations, we're learning, to overhaul this system. Kara, your thoughts?
I think this is just an example of the litany of problems that we have with social media companies. Their opacity in their content moderation decisions, their inconsistent enforcement of their vague rules. In the segment before, you talked about the potential Ronald Reagan's shooter who's now on Twitter. Donald Trump is not on Twitter. Inconsistent enforcement and a lack of transparency and recourse when you feel that your rights have been violated because you've been kicked off these platforms with no word, or because they let CCP, Chinese Communist Party spokespeople, spew their genocidal rhetoric all over the platform. And this is Twitter we're talking about here, and yet normal mainstream conservatives can't even have a voice. So in my mind, it's that inconsistency, it's those vague rules. That's not going away. Facebook's continuing to propagate these practices, and it doesn't look like they're going to stop. Instead, they're looking to get first mover advantage in the next phase of the internet, the metaverse, as we've talked about. So these problems are going to persist.
I think this is the beginning of a very long conversation that we're going to look back on. Allison, you said a name change isn't going to solve these problems. What actually is? Starting with CEO Mark Zuckerberg, from the top to the bottom, what does need to be done from a PR standpoint?
He needs to be transparent, right? He needs to talk about what's really happening. And he needs to answer to lawmakers because there's so many questions. It's one crisis after the next. We keep hearing in the headlines, the Wall Street Journal, whistleblowers. People want answers. I've been censored just for posting basic content, and there's no answers. They just decide who they want to censor and what they want to put out there. And for parents, we want to know what our kids are seeing. Unfortunately, as they become teenagers, you can't really prevent them from having social media. So we need somebody to hold them accountable and know what's going on behind the scenes. And if it's having a new person instead of Mark Zuckerberg, maybe. But it's not just Facebook. It's TikTok. It's Twitter. It's every social media platform.
No, this is a much broader scale. Also, as you talk about teenagers getting online, maybe that will change in the future. According to a recent Quinnipiac poll, 77% of Americans say that Facebook and Twitter do more harm than good. So, Kara, do you think this is going to be a trend of people maybe jumping on former President Trump's new social media, Truth Social, or do you think they're going to just step away from social media altogether?
one can only hope that both of those things work, that alternative platforms, I see these as the answer, ones that actually stand up for freedom of expression and don't just provide lip service to the general public once they can entrench themselves in the market and get that user base. So alternative, competitive platforms, these are the answers. Yes, I think teens should absolutely step away from these devices. They're extremely harmful, as we found in the past few weeks with the Wall Street Journal expose on Facebook and the harms that Instagram perpetuates among our teen population. But as Allison talked about, TikTok is screaming ahead, gathering up a young American user base. So we have to make sure, remember, their parent company, ByteDance, headquartered in China, all of that data, all of that technology, the CCP has access to that. So American teens, instead of just getting off Facebook and migrating to TikTok, they need to put the devices down, live in the real world, and learn how to become fully formed individuals before they lose themselves in these virtual realities.
I mean, just this week, we're learning doctors are saying TikTok is causing actual tics in young teen girls, spending 18 months just staring at their phone, learning different data. Sure, it was fun for a minute, but now how much further does that continue? All the time we have for this morning, we could discuss this all day. Kara Frederick, Allison Maloney, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.